welcome to the new YouTube series. Well, one of two new YouTube series. So we're gonna run a 2 week, 2 video per week schedule. One obviously more vlog style, like you would be used to, documenting the off season, the grow season, and then one more so this kind of style where we're gonna work through a series of curricular topics, just about life and about human development. And well, as you can see, it's called the Development Blueprint, and this is going to be lecture 1. So yeah, one other like vlog style video, because I just love giving back. And what to experienced people in this avenue, in this niche class, as almost common knowledge. To a lot of people, it's really not common knowledge. So this is just me doing my bit and going through a series of topics. So if anyone has any questions or any topics that they would like covered in a bit more detail that I might skip over, drop a comment or drop me a DM, and we'll get it sorted. Okay, so the first lecture, I like calling it a lecture. It makes me feel of importance. But the first lecture, we're going to just be understanding human development, really. So what is human development? Now, that's not physique development. Physique development is a subcategory of human development, but it does sort of involve heavily physique development, as that is my avenue specifically. But when you develop someone's physique, you're not only developing their physique, you're developing their mindset, their lifestyle, and the other avenues that come along with that. So it's not just a vain physique-specific sort of time in your life when you're prioritizing your physique. You find that when you do that, you're also leveling up in pretty much every other avenue in life, just via the bleed of the dedication and the adherence that you give to physique development. That rubs off into any other avenue that you really want to go in. So the purpose of today's video: establish what development is and what it actually means before looking at optimizing it. So before we can sort of delve into different avenues of what makes someone a good athlete, what gives someone a good sort of physique, good method of physique development by optimizing different avenues: sleep, nutrition, recovery, training, all those things. What is development, first of all? So yeah, there we go. So the definition of development, this is half sort of like my own opinion. Like this bit down here is like sort of my own opinion. The other bits are just what development is. So human development is progressive adaptation across different sort of biometrics and different systems. So biological systems such as your endocrine system, your physique, your physical look, like that is more so the physique development side of things. So how do your biological systems adapt over time? So that's that avenue. Psychological systems, what you think, your levels of adherence, your levels of discipline, all those things come under that sort of bracket. Your social systems, so who you surround yourself by, your relationships with people. You will often find that when you sort of hone in on one of these avenues, then the others level up as well. And I add this in at the bottom: each layer feeds into the others. No one domain can develop isolation. So if you sort of analyze that you have a problem in one of these areas, you hone in on that, you try and amend or fix that problem, such as, it could be your physique. I'll use that example. I'm using that example quite a lot. So a biological system, by you doing that and leveling up your biological system, being your physique, your psychological, your social systems will also reap the benefit of that, because you're developing the good habits that it takes to develop a good physique. Their psychological systems, habitual things, the levels of adherence and all that stuff. And your social systems as well. Once you sort of level up your own psychological systems, you will find that you attract that other people with higher level psychological systems as well, and you'll enjoy being around those people more. That saying goes, never be the smartest person in the room, with good reason. So yeah, and like I said, each layer feeds into the others. No one domain can develop in isolation. So yeah, there's that. So I've sort of split this up into, as you could see on the previous slide, a 3-domain model. So physical, mental, social. Now, physically, Adaptation to stress causes strength/resilience. That is hypertrophy right there. Now, this first sort of video isn't going to be specifically hypertrophic based. It's more so just about human development as a whole. But each of these and the development outcomes are very much of importance to understand and know and what to expect. So physically, obviously, adaptation to stress, resistance training brings back strength/resilience, and as a byproduct, hypertrophy. Mentally, cognitive refinement. So it's such as things, your morning routine. You're waking up. Are you scrolling on TikTok for half an hour? No, you're not. You're gonna wake up, do something productive, get something firing. Do a bit of work, find something that you enjoy. That could be a hobby, anything like that, or if you are lucky enough to actually enjoy your job, which the more conversations I have with clients, not many people actually do. So the first thing I'll say is, why are you doing it then? Why are you doing it? If you enjoy your occupation or enjoy your job, then it really is a life-changing thing. So yeah, once you refine yourself cognitively, you then get higher levels of clarity, higher levels of control, which again, social feedback and culture. So like how people see you almost. The culture then, like I said earlier on, you enjoy being around other like-minded individuals, then the more of that you do, it sort of almost molds your own identity and your own sort of direction. Being around those types of people, attracting those types of people, they are the people you want to be around. People that are better than you in whatever avenue that you're lacking in, that's much more inclined to rub off then on you as a person and give you those social values that are very, very important. So yeah, there's that's sort of the model that all human development it goes off. It can be broken down into more sort of avenues, but they are the main three. And like I said, no one of those is exclusive. You can never just work on one. You will work on one primarily, but then the others will also see a big benefit off the back of that. So obviously all of those things are progress. Now, nothing happens overnight. Progress over time and making little changes over time, especially in the hypertrophic department. So why does progress stall? Lack of measurable inputs, feedback delay, conflicting systems, or emotional miscalibration, or even just avoidance or burnout. They're all valuable measures to why progress stalls. So first of all, lack of measurable inputs. Now, you need to be setting goals. It's really, really easy to set goals for the physical aspect. So I want to be X body weight at this percent body fat. I want to be this strong. I want to look this type of way. They are all goals and they are all measurable goals, which are really, really easy to keep track of. And it's always nice to just often look at the bigger picture and you can see, okay, I'm on the right track. Not only is that obviously warming to know that you're doing something right and you're seeing the relevant progress that you desire, but it makes it a lot easier to adhere and make things habitual once you start seeing progress. Now, once you get into the other avenues, the psychological and the social, the measurable inputs, well, there is a lack of, like it says. Now, you can sort of measure it in sense of your mood, in sense of you just subconsciously find yourself doing better things with your life in general. Now, it's not really as clear-cut as physical progress, but as in, I looked that way, now I look this way. Pretty evident progress. It often does take a bit of deeper thinking to actually think, have I really progressed mentally? Have I progressed socially? Have I progressed psychologically? So that's why it's a bit harder to measure inputs there, but it is still very much doable. So feedback delay. Now, that is just a case of not looking back at your progress enough and not, almost like I said, zooming out and looking at the bigger picture. So you need action, you need to take action and then adaptation on that. Now, it doesn't happen week by week basis. There's only so much change that you can see in a 7-day period. So it is very important to sort of zoom out now and then and actually be like, I was going to swear then, but I don't know if I don't want to really get demonetized. I've made a hefty bit of progress, even though the week-to-week changes. For example, if you're doing weekly check-ins with a coach, there's hardly ever going to be any week-to-week visual changes in a physique. Now, that's the same with your psychological state. That's the same with your social state. Hardly ever changes on a 7-day basis. So it is very, very good to just almost zoom out every now and then. And like I said, once you actually visualize and you get to see for yourself the progress is being made, albeit at a slightly slower rate than weekly, it does then give you that boost. It gives you that motivation boost that you are doing something right. So conflicting systems, goals versus environment. So does your environment reflect your goals? If it doesn't, you've already set yourself up for failure, pretty much. So, and that could be in any avenue. So say you want to start a business, you want to start a company, and you're still surrounded by people who are out on the piss every Friday and Saturday night, religiously every weekend. It's not really reflecting correct on who you want to be and the goals that you want to achieve. Now, I learned this at a pretty young age, which is cool, because not everyone does, and there's still people in their late 20s, 30s, 40s even, that are stuck. They are sheep, and then they're afraid to go against the grain, change their environment, because then that's what's necessary sometimes, not sometimes, more than likely, to reach your desired goal. Now, if it was easy, everyone would do it, and it's not easy, so everyone doesn't do it, and that's why everyone is, well, not everyone, a lot of people are just sheep. They're happy in their current environment because there's nothing challenging to them there in that state. But then, obviously, if you have goals, it's very unlikely you're going to get there. So if you have a goal, look at someone else who is doing that and he's doing it well, or she, and base your environment on theirs. So whether that's just being around that same type of people, being around like-minded individuals is a massive one for me personally. I always really thrive on talking to other people and just find out things from people who are better than you. Don't be surrounding yourself in the environment where no one has these goals that you have, no one shares the same thoughts as you have. It's very unlikely you're going to reach any form of long-term goal if your environment isn't really reflective of that. So yeah, there's that. Emotional miscalibration, avoidance, or burnout. So this is a bit of a trickier one to sort of quantify, but if you say you want to do something, like say for example, I want to by 2027, I want to be a seven-figure. I want to be a seven-figure tech company owner. Just made that off the top of my head. That sounds cool, but then you have to look at, why am I doing it? Am I doing it because I am emotionally invested in tech, or am I doing it for the money and the success off the back of it? There's like both of those reasons will motivate you and will help you reach that goal. But with the latter, there is a much higher chance of almost avoidance of the necessary daily tasks to get there, and then ultimately burnout, because at the end of the day, if you're doing it for those external factors, not the actual task at hand and enjoying the task at hand, it's very easy to burn out and even avoid some of the hard stuff that you would have to do to get to that goal. So it is important that you do actually ask yourself, sit down with yourself and say, am I actually emotionally available to this goal? Is this something I enjoy? Is this something that I'm passionate about? Or am I passionate about the external factors? Because one will give you a hell of a lot of progress and you'll be very, very successful in that. Or one can also be successful, by all means. Money is a big motivator for a lot of people, but you have a much higher chance of ultimately falling into avoidance of the hard tasks that you will need to conduct day to day to get to your goal, or burnout, which is basically when you just have had a tipful and you don't want to do anymore. So yeah, there's that. Now, the adaptive cycle. So this is almost how your body adapts when you give it a new stimulus. I use the word stimulus because obviously muscle building, hypertrophy, but stimulus is just stress. So the stress is introduced. So something new has been introduced to the cycle, and your body needs to find a way to cope with that. So homeostasis has been disturbed. So what is homeostasis? It's just your sort of regular day-to-day normality, pretty much. So you've introduced something new, something different, something 9 times out of 10 difficult. Homeostasis has then been disturbed. So your body's almost saying, well, I say your body, it's not just physical, it can be psychological or social, like we already talked about. Something has been disturbed, so it needs to then recover. Now, I always do link it back to hypertrophy, because that is the biggest, most clear-cut factor to look at, to be able to quantify adaptation, because you give stress, normality has been disturbed, recovery occurs, then the baseline shifts upward, and then you have a new failure point, well, a slightly higher failure point, until you almost are doing enough, putting enough stress in, that then you can be insufficiently recovered or excessive stimulus. Both of those are kind of the same thing. So that's the sort of cycle that you want to repeat upon itself. So stress is introduced, something new, something hard, something challenging, but hopefully something that you enjoy. Homeostasis has then been disturbed, so normality has been disturbed, something new has came in. Recovery then occurs, your body, your mind finds ways to adapt to that, whether that's allocating an extra 2 hours to do something on that necessary topic, whether that's having to wake up earlier, whether that's in a muscle building context, building bigger muscles. Baseline then shifts upward, so that means your body is now back at homeostasis with this new stress. That new stress is no longer new, it is in your homeostasis. So then you need to repeat the cycle and introduce a new stressor again. That's constant adaptation cycle. It goes round and round and round, constantly in the pursuit of challenging yourself mentally, psychologically, socially, physically, all of those things, until, hopefully never, but sometimes it does occur, you reach your failure point. You can't take anymore. You're insufficiently recovering, or you have just too much stimulus for you to handle. So yeah, that's the adaptive cycle. Now that sort of goes on just in a never-ending cycle, if you're lucky. Sometimes it does end with either insufficient recovery or excessive stimulus, where you just need, maybe you want to go on holiday. Maybe it would be a deload from training, anything along the lines of that. So measurement of feedback. Now, I've been very open and talked a lot about this in the previous slides. You need to have quantifiable sort of measures, not just to make sure that you are doing the correct, necessary things day to day, but to have that motivation to look back. And it's nice to see progress. When you see progress and you almost have that reconfirmation that what you're doing is working, then it just gives you that little boost, especially if you're having a bit of a shitter week, and then you almost zoom out, like I said, look back to where you started and look at where you are now, and then you see that quantifiable change. There's no feeding like that. Okay, so yeah, quantitative as in hard metrics, tests and data, and then qualitative is almost reflection journals. So like quantitative is you have a quantifiable number, so whether that's amount of sales calls taken in a week for that tech company business, whether that's your physique, your body weight, what you look like. Then qualitative reflection journals is things that can't be put a number on. It's more so how you're feeling. Are you happy? How are you content with your progress? Are you eager for more? Do you feel like you can be doing more? That's more qualitative data analysis. Then development is the data. So you have the hard quantitative data, like the numbers and the physique look, how you interpret that data. So whether you think that data is positive or negative. Now, you could take your body weight in a physique standpoint from 75 kilos to 95 kilos over 6 months. Are you then, by interpreting that, are you happy with that? If you're not, then you adjust. You interpret the data, then you adjust accordingly. Now, that's not just a physique standpoint, that's everything. So whatever your work-ons are, like we've established already, you need to interpret that and actually be self-critical about it. Am I doing the most I can? Am I doing anything wrong? Am I doing anything that could be done that bit better? Then you adjust accordingly. That's why measurement of feedback is such a big player, because if you just didn't actually zoom out and look at the data, look at the quantitative and qualitative data, you would have then nothing to interpret. So then it's pretty hard to make adjustments based on measures you don't have. So that's why it's important to measure and keep that a consistent thing, whatever your avenue of progression may be. So yeah, there's that. Really, really important topic, and it is very much overlooked. I would say probably the most overlooked topic on you. Maybe, actually. I'm not sure, though. I've actually got a Lando monster right now as well. Best flavour. So, what is the role of environment? We've already talked about environment a little bit. Your structure dictates behaviour. That just goes back to what I was saying. You don't want to be the best person at whatever you want to be better at in the room. Now, it's not in a sense of a physical room. Like, it's not, well, it may well be. But that just means, you're having these conversations with people who are doing better than you, who you almost aspire to be like, to have some of their qualities. You want to be around those people, talk to those people, and learn from those people, because ultimately, the harsh reality is they are better than you. That is how it is, and the sooner that you accept that, then the easier it'll be to learn from them and just pick up on little things that they do. How do they conduct their day-to-day life? What are they doing daily to make sure that they reach their goals? It's just little things like that. That you design your environment to eliminate friction, which is also what I was going back to. You don't want to be in your room. I refer to in a room, I just mean your social circle in general, not in a physical room. Like I said, it may well be in a physical room, but not in this theoretical sense. Design your environment to eliminate friction. So that basically goes back to what I said. If you are the only one out of your social circle that has these big aspirations, that has these big goals, probably the wrong social circle for what you want. And it's probably going to cause you a bit of friction. Now, like I said, I learned this at a very, very young age, which I'm grateful for. Your circle is everything. It is. It's like you need people to bounce ideas off. You need people to learn from. You need people to call you out when you're not doing the most. Because if you have these big goals and you say you want to change any of those avenues, your physical, your psychological, your social, you want the people around you to sort of call you out on when you're not doing that. Like you said you were going to do that, so why aren't you doing it? They are the type of people that you want to be around. It might be harsh at the time, but you look back and you'll be thankful for those comments. Now, if those people that you're around are causing you friction, such as, oh, come on, let's go to the pub, oh, let's go do this, let's go do that, things that are not constructive whatsoever to your goal, and in fact sometimes detrimental, it's a long day, pretty much. Remove optional failure points before increasing load. That pretty much ties into that as well. Remove the things that could potentially fail before increasing load. Now, it always refers to, well, I've structured this that it refers to load and failure points, but it's not just a physique standpoint. Okay, you can interpret that as a failure point, as in, oh, that relationship's a little bit rocky. I don't think he or she will be supportive of me if I do this, but I really, really, really want to do it. Remove the failure point before increasing the load, before increasing the stress, before trying to do it, before, like we said above, before performing this adaptive cycle of introducing new stresses. Fix your environment first. Remove the failure points before increasing load. Actually think about what that means. I think that's a great analogy, to be honest. I know I keep giving analogies based on hypertrophy, but it's the biggest clear-cut sort of quantifiable cycle of adaptation that you can say. Remove the failure points, remove the rockiness, remove the detrimental relationships before increasing the stresses to your homeostasis, because if you don't, it's more than likely going to shatter and go to tatters, which is unfortunate, but it's necessary for your human adaptation. Okay, so yeah, that's a really good point. Now, identity and trajectory. So identity follows repeated evidence of capability. So what does that mean? Now, you have your desired identity of who you want to be. Now, that follows repeated evidence of capability. So you want to be this successful person. It's really, really hard for you to think like that and to think that you are successful if you're not doing the daily non-negotiables that you've already set out to reach that goal. So if you know that, yeah, I'm doing this today, you've got a list, you're going to wake up, you're going to do this, all of which amalgamated together are directly contributive towards the bigger goal. It'll be a lot easier for you to identify has someone that's successful and has someone that's driven. Now, it's really hard to fake that. It is really, really hard to fake that. Now, if you weren't doing those day-to-day things and you were still sort of like, yeah, I am successful, it's like, you know in yourself that you're lying, that you could be doing more, pretty much. So that's a bit what that means. Self-image updates through behavior. It's pretty much the same sort of thinking there. Your self-image, or what you think of yourself, it will change through what you do on a day-to-day basis. If you know that you're doing the most every single day in order to get to your goal, your own self-image will be a lot more positive, which will then encourage you to do more of those day-to-day things, because you know that, I did that, I contributed towards my overarching goal, that was good, that made me feel good, I'm going to do that again. And then the cycle repeats and the cycle repeats. The cycle again being the adaptation cycle of introducing a stressor, completing that stressor, analysing results, quantifiable, repeat. You just do those things over and over and over and over and over, and then your self-image will update. You're happy with how you're feeling with what you're doing. You're getting closer and closer to that goal. Your trajectory is then improving. You can see your own trajectory. Now that is a massive, massive factor in progress and adaptation. When you can see your own trajectory, I'll say it again. When you zoom out, I think I've said that like 20 times. When you zoom out and you actually analyze your trajectory, you can see that you're constantly on a state of improvement. That is huge. That gives you the ultimate motivation that cannot be placed, pretty much. So it is very important to zoom out and have a look at where you're going. And like it says here, your trajectory is much more important than your momentary state. So especially important to when maybe, I don't know, you're having a shit day. You're having a shit day, had a shit day at work, you're dieting, you're tired, you're fatigued, it's late at night, you've got nothing to do, you're watching TV, you're feeling a bit naff. It would be easy then to analyze that momentary state and be like, what am I doing? But zoom out, look at your trajectory. Yeah, are we linearly going up? No, we're peaks and troughs, but our overall trajectory is positive. W, pretty much. So yeah, that's that. Identity is massive. Because if you think you are good, 9 out of 10, you're going to be good. It's one of those. You have to think about going to sleep to be asleep. That's another good analogy that you can use. So the meta skill is adaptability. Now, true development is your rate of adaptation speed, not just how strong or smart you are, but how fast you adjust to data. So true development means that this is not a lifetime sort of thing. Well, it can be, but it's more so yearly, 6-monthly goals. Okay, it's not how strong or smart you are, but how fast you adjust to data. So that goes back to reading and reacting, analysing the data, analysing what we can quantify, and analysing the reflection tasks of journaling, of actually noticing how you're feeling, all those things, and then adapting accordingly. So the quicker that you adapt based on the results, based on the data, that is true adaptability, and it's a very, very good skill to learn. Now, me personally, obviously working with loads and loads of guys and girls, coaching-wise, that's a key metric in me as a coach, is how quick can I adapt, depending on someone's emotions, depending on someone's body weight this week. Doesn't matter how strong or smart I am, but how fast I can then adjust to, we've had this today, right, okay, we have to change X, Y, Z. It's about reading and reacting, noticing data, noticing patterns in data, what works, what doesn't work. If something doesn't work, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to adapt, we're going to change. That quick rate of adaptation speed will be infinitely valuable in your overall progress. And like I said, it's not about how strong or smart you are, but how fast you adjust to the given data if something's not working. Yeah, there's that. So to summarize the principles, stress plus recovery equals growth. Yeah, which is basic muscle building principles, but it applies to every avenue of adaptation and development as a human being. Introduce a stressor, recover from that stressor, get used to that stressor, you grow. Introduce another stressor, recover from that stressor, you grow. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Really easy, really straightforward. Next, measure, which we've talked about as in gathering data, quantifiable data and qualitative data. the actual numbers and statistics, which are keeping you on track to your goal, and also how you're feeling in yourself as well, because both are very, very important. Measure, reflect, so analyze the data. Is it good enough? Is this the rate of progress that I want? No, adjust. If it is, okay, sound. Keep on that track until it isn't. Then adjust. So it's basically just reading, analyzing, reflecting, reacting. Okay. Design your environment before trying to implement discipline. So design your ideal environment. Like we talked about, environment is so, so important. Be around people who are better than you. It's that fucking... there we go. There's the monetization gone. Great. Be around people who are better than you, and you will become better as a byproduct of that. You don't be the smartest person in the room all the time. It is nice occasionally, but not always, because you're never going to learn like that. Be around people who you genuinely do aspire to have some of their qualities, and then you will grow as a person, as an individual. And yeah, design your environment before discipline. So like I said, anything around you that you do on a day-to-day, any people around you that you think might not be ultimately supportive of that goal, it's harsh, but if you're genuine about your goals and you have really strong goals as an individual, cut that shit off. I can swear now because I've already F-bombed it. Cut that shit off, because 9 times out of 10, it will just get off later down the line, and you're sort of in the middle of something then. So you don't really want those external stresses while trying to already add stresses. Yeah, it just becomes a bit of a shit show. So design your environment before going head over heels for it. Your identity follows evidence. Now, what that means, like we talked about, if you genuinely are doing as much as you can on a day-to-day basis in contribution to your goal, to try and reach that ultimate goal that you have, your identity and how you think about yourself will level up. You will think of yourself as, I was going to say like a higher being, but that's a bit extreme. We're not God over here, but you will feel better. You'll be more confident. You'll just navigate life as a better person, as a better individual, when you know you are going all in for this goal. That's that easy. So you can tell when someone's faking. You can tell when someone's like, yeah, I'm doing this, doing that, I'm doing that. Everything's trying to get me to this goal, to X goal. Is it though? It's probably not. But when someone is genuine and they are following the daily tasks, the hourly, the minutely tasks in order to reach their goal, that you can almost sense it. You can sense in that person that, yeah, okay, fair fucks, you're smashing it. And adaptability governs longevity. So the more adaptable you are, the quicker you can adapt as well. Like we said, the rate of adaptation, that will govern how long you can adapt for and you keep progressing for. So, for example, if you reflected, like we said, and you adjusted, if you reflected and then you were like, progress is okay, it could be better, but then you didn't adjust, you didn't do anything about it, it's sort of going to grind to a halt a bit sooner than later, which is suboptimal for progress and adaptation. Now, if you adapt really, really fast, you've analysed, okay, you've reflected, no, I'm not happy with this, I need to do more, I need to be better, I need to do this, adjust the plan, adjust what you're doing to account for that. You want a quicker rate of progress, okay, you look at your day-to-day, adjust your day-to-day, then that will then govern a much longer sort of process for you. So yeah, there's that. Now, the next lecture will be probably next week. Lecture 2, discipline and systems thinking. So basically how to build the structures that remove motivation from the equation. Because motivation is temperamental and is something that cannot be relied on solely in order to get you to a goal. It comes in waves. Discipline is not a wave. It is just you having fucking balls and doing the day-to-day things that are required in order to reach your big goal at the end of it. So yeah, we're going to go into a bit about how to build the structures to set that up for success and how to just remove motivation from the equation. Now, not remove it totally, because motivation, like I said, when you zoom out and you look at your overarching goals and your progress and you see, yeah, do you know what? My linear trajectory is positive, then that does give you a bit of motivation. So then maybe for the next month, you might be extra motivated. But as long as you have that baseline level of constant discipline, motivation can be in there as well. So yeah, thank you for watching that lecture 1. 35 minutes, Jesus. Yeah, so these are going to be like the structure for these videos. It'll be like this with me on the screen down here. I'm like down this side of the screen for me, that's why it doesn't look like I'm looking at you directly. But so this is the layout for these videos. If you have any topics individually that you would like covered, drop them in the comments or message me directly, and I'll try to give my 2 cents on that topic. But yeah, like these initial lectures are just going to be overarching more life things, like life development. Then we'll go into some specifics as well. So any muscle building nerds, don't worry, the information on those things will come. But yeah, so hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next episode.